Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day and above all else that you're looking after yourselves and one another. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have some fun with this episode. We are continuing with our Genesis Triple Play. And in this episode, episode 2, we're going to be tackling our Genesis Baker's Dozen. I have coming along with me for this ride, Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it going, Jim?
I'm doing well and I am ready for fun. Fun, fun, fun.
You're still the man of the hour. There we go. And also coming along for the ride, we have Mr. Ken Cheshire. How's it going, Ken?
Going well. Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Good to be seen by you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, as I said, we are continuing with our Genesis Triple Play. In episode 1, we acknowledged the 50th anniversary of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. And in episode 2, as I said, we are going to be tackling our Genesis Baker's Dozen. Each one of us have chosen 13 tracks that we're going to talk about that we feel in some way stand out from, the rest of the music in the catalog. This is just a fun episode. For me, my rankings aren't in any order numerically. So I'm going to pass the virtual.
Oh,
Yes, I'm going
we're
to
going
pass
that
the.
way, are we? Okay.
Yes, it's going to be a fun episode. Um, I'm going to pass the virtual mic over let's go with the man of the hour, Jim. How's it going, Jim?
I'm for being a man of the hour, I'm okay. I would like to nominate Ken Cheshire as the permanent man of the evening going forward.
We'll go with that.
So someone else can sort of bear the brunt of the title,
Okay.
you know.
All right.
Weary
Okay.
is the head that carries the crown,
This is true.
Mr. Venditti. So
What Jim said. Okay. Okay, we'll
yeah.
go with that. All
Well,
right.
mine are in order, gosh darn it, and I'm sticking by them. And if folks want to go have a few words about it, we'll have some words about it. Harumph. So
There you
I've
go.
just taken all the fun out of it. My number 13. Uh, I'm thinking it might surprise some people. I'm going to one of the EPs that Genesis put out in their life cycle, and this would be from the 3x3 EP. This is You Might Recall, which was also featured on the initial US release of Three Sides Live. But for the rest of the world, or at least in the UK and its initial release, it was on the 3x3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might recall uh, deep cut, sleeper of an album track. I just love it. And I love it because it's so much different than the rest of the catalog. It's the closest that Genesis ever came to jangle pop. And if you hear the guitars, you know exactly why I call it that. But it's got a feel to it that, other Genesis songs don't have. This isn't like invisible touch poppy. It's not that's
Mm-hmm.
all poppy, but it's got that pop feel in the veins of what was going on with Abacab Duke and then there were three. So it's definitely in that pocket, and I think it's just incredibly high quality track, uh, very fun musically, not too ridiculous lyrically, and it's just a very well crafted, constructed song all the way through. Everyone's on fire. No big flashy solos, but it's just a great, solid track. So that's my jelly donut in the box. Is You Might Recall.
Okay. Okay. Good choice. Good choice. I haven't heard that in a while. I have to go back and listen to it.
I highly recommend it. That and 12 others I highly recommend.
I will take your recommendation. All right. Going down to the man of the evening, Ken.
Well, I understand not ranking them and I understand ranking them, but to be honest, um, this isn't a definitive ranking because with
That's what I
Genesis,
that's what I
it,
meant to say. Yeah, it's
yeah,
definitive.
it just um so this is the way they're ranked for today. Tomorrow would probably be different. Um Plus, it's just so hard to narrow down their catalog to just 13 songs. So, anyway, so for my number 13 is More Fool Me from Selling England by the
Ooh,
Pound.
interesting.
Um, I love the pastoral guitar and just the simple, wonderful vocal harmonies. I like Genesis's big epics, 13-minute epics and stuff. But I love the way that this just kind of um, offers something completely different in the middle of this album. I love the album anyway, but this is the one that does come to mind. More Fool Me from Selling England by the Pound.
Good choice. Good choice. All right. My first choice on my list of 13, Supper's Ready. All right. Now,
Okay.
uh, when I was looking at this list or trying to put this list together, I tried to stay away from the hits. I wanted to go with the more with the album tracks, the deep cuts, and you can't get any more deeper than this. I'm sorry. From Foxtrot, um, the unofficial start to this track is the Beautiful Horizons from Steve Hackett. It's generally accepted that Horizons is the, intro to Supper's Ready. I just think that um, for the, that this track, sorry, is a very ambitious piece. The origins of this track started with, as the story goes, Peter Gabriel was visiting his in-laws with his wife, and John Burns was there, and they were partaking in some substances. And Jill turned to both of them and started talking in tongues and in a very low register, which honestly scared the crap out of both John Burns and Peter Gabriel. They put her to bed and they were talking in the living room. And as he was looking out the window, Peter Gabriel saw what he thought was another realm outside the window. And he thought he saw figures, hooded figures, standing on the lawn watching the house. So that really did a number on him. Thus was part of the inspiration for this track. They purposely sat down as a group and decided to write an extended piece of music. And I just I think that it's very inventive. I think it's very intricate. You have the different sections, Apocalypse and 9/8, etc. I just think that for and also the ending of, the Jerusalem section, I just think that it's a very inventive piece of work. And I recently got into it about a year and a half ago, like full stop, where I did an episode called "Is This the Definitive Prog Track?" And I did a 27-minute video on this piece of music. And yeah, I just think it's a fantastic piece of work. I think it's adventurous. I think it's daring, whatever adjective you want to use to describe it. I think it's just a fantastic piece of work. And that's my first choice.
So again, not a ranking. It's just here's a batch of my 13.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
All right.
All right. Jim.
Over to me for my number 12. Okay. This has the apple fritter position in my baker's dozen box. And this is the lead off to Foxtrot. This is Watcher of the Skies. Um,
Oh.
you know, I'll just get it out of the way. Dripping with Mellotron.
Oh, yes. I missed that. Yes.
Absolutely dripping. Um,
And bloody tastic. Go on.
you know, if if Supper's Ready weren't on this album, this probably would be the track that would be the most epic from the album. Um, and that's saying something. Yeah, I mean, just the Mellotron introduction, Ken, you got to help me here. It's not polymeter. Is it syncopated? The introduction with the bass and the drums and
I believe
everything
so. I believe so.
syncopated. Okay. The syncopated introduction in this thing is just amazing. And as it leads into the song proper and then the outro section as well, it's just outstanding. My almost favorite version of this is the one that's on Three Sides Live when it's part of the closing medley of the concert. And that just to hear Phil and Bill Bruford go absolutely manic is just one of my favorite Genesis Live concert moments. And there will be lots of Genesis Live tunes on this list. But like I said, in the apple fritter position, you got your Watcher of the Skies right there. Boom.
I love me some apple fritter.
Especially
Mhm.
when it's
Drip thing.
with Mellotron.
Mellotron. Yes. Yes, I understand. I understand. Moving on and down to the man of the evening.
My number 12, I'm still on Selling England by the Pound, the cinema show. Um,
Nah.
this song in particular strikes me as very British. Um,
Yes. Yes.
and I Banks is a wonderful arranger and keyboard player, but I just really love his work on the keys on this. And I don't see this song showing up on a whole lot of lists. Um, and for me, it's kind of I could see where it's kind of easy to forget that it's out there, but I like it, obviously.
Yeah.
So my fritter is the cinema show.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, my glazed donut is the knife. Next one on my list
Oh, nice.
from Trespass. This was before Phil Collins and Steve Hackett joined the band. This was when Anthony Phillips was still with the group, and the individual on drums, the name escapes me right now, but
John Mayhew.
John Mayhew. Yes, okay. Um, they got rid of him because they didn't feel that he could keep time properly on drums. But I've always loved this song. The first time I heard this song was watching the Genesis documentary from 1990 on VHS, way back in the day, ladies and gentlemen. And I just love this track. I love that it's the galloping drum pattern that they have going, the organ that comes in, the vocals that come in from Gabriel, very strong, very forceful. All about battle and like just only the fittest will survive kind of a situation, right? And just the many sections, this song is like 9 minutes plus, just the multi sections to this track. I think there's a fantastic version of this on the live album from 73. But I think that this is one track that kind of gets forgotten about too sometimes. Um, so I just wanted to give it some love. I love this track.
It was a great song.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not one that they trotted out much after geez, probably after 73. I mean, it got a couple of appearances as like encores, but in a very shortened version.
Yeah.
But even those, I think they might have done it once on their, Three Sides Live tour, before the big reunion show with Pete, and then I think they did it in 78 and 80 and a few stops here and there, but I don't think it got much after that.
Yeah. And even, some of the lyrics, some of you are going to die martyrs, of course, to the freedom that I shall provide. It's like, Jesus. I'm listening to this going, Okay, this is quite deep, you know.
It's a long way from Hold On My Heart, I gotta tell you.
Yes, yes. So yes, it is next on my list, ladies and gentlemen. The Knife from Trespass 1970. Over to the man of the hour.
And you're gonna need a knife for the one that's in the glazed old-fashioned position within the donut box today. And this is originally was from Wind and Wuthering. This is One for the Vine, which um, in its, I gotta say, in its Wind and Wuthering capacity, it's just kind of limp. It's just kind of,
There.
yeah, it's kind of flaccid and lies there. However, when you get to its Three Sides Live version, it's turgid, it's strong, it's just, oh, it's got all the gusto that you could want out of a Genesis tune. The double drumming, the just right amount of keyboards, just the thunder that they bring to this thing is absolutely amazing. Um, I could if this tune in the live version were on Wind and Wuthering, I would have a much stronger opinion of the Wind and Wuthering album. Um, but um, just for what it is, I love it. But it's got to be in its Three Sides Live version for me to get all of the juicy goodness out of it. One for the Vine. If I thought about it more, I would make a wine analogy and would have had that prepared. But sorry, guys, I let you down.
It's fine.
So are you
Okay.
saying you don't care for Wind and Wuthering?
I was going to ask you that.
Well, I think there's another video that we're going to be doing soon in our little Genesis collective, and you'll just have to wait until then.
Duly noted. Okay. All right. Ken.
Guys, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Ken.
My number 11 is actually from Wind and the Wuthering. It's Afterglow. Um, Afterglow strikes me very much like More Fool Me from Selling England. It's
Okay.
simple and elegant. And there again, it's the contradiction to the other songs, and it just I don't know. I find it a good juxtaposition, and I really do like it.
I
Harumps.
think it's one of Tony Banks's best songs.
Yeah,
And
Absolutely.
just for the sheer fact of doing basically a love song
yeah,
Yep.
lyrically. I
yep.
mean, excuse me. Um, guys, I'm dealing with a cough, so if I start coughing, ladies and gentlemen, you'll forgive me. But yeah, no, I understand. I understand. Even the opening lyric, like from the track, is just beautiful. But we must carry on. My next pick, I did a bit of a cheat here.
What?
Sue me.
What? Well, you are the host. I guess you can get away with it. Go ahead. Have your cheat. Have your cheat.
Won't be the first time. From Duke, Duke's Travels, Duke's End.
I'll allow it.
That's
And
fair.
the
No, it's
reason
fair.
why I put them together is because I don't see one without the other. I think that musically it is intricate, elaborate, percussive as all get out. The history of this was that when they started writing music for Duke, that it was the one side of Duke. Side one was going to be Behind the Lines, Duchess, guide vocal, Turn It On Again, and then Duke's Travels, Duke's End. But what they decided
Yeah.
to do was to split it up. And you know what? I'm still debating whether or not they should have done that. I'm still debating.
Hmm.
Okay. But I like the fact that it's very expansive as an instrumental piece. And and it's very intricate with the drumming and the keyboards and the guitar. It's amazing. And then when everything you think at the end of Duke's Travels, everything's sort of quieting down, goes into that little keyboard intro, and then bam, it goes right back
Oh,
into the
behind
what
the
you
lines.
hear from behind the lines as as the outro. And then it's just the drums come in for a bit of a drum section, and then the keyboards come back in, the guitars, and it just builds um, you know, to its climax. And
Mhm.
but what also really gets me is the guide vocal section that comes back in.
oh
Very
yeah.
Yep.
strong, very emotional. It's
Yep.
almost like it's almost like like his throat is bleeding at the end of that vocal take because he's putting so much emotion into it. And you
Mhm.
can see, I could see this piece being done as on stage, like as almost like a theatrical piece, like live, right? Just
Mhm.
in a play setting. But I've always loved Duke as an album. At one point it was my Desert Island album, but Duke's Travels and Duke's End especially. I'm getting pumped up thinking about it, just thinking about the music to it. So I mean, it had to be on my list. That's my uh, that's my next one at number 11.
I no argument from me on that one.
I almost did that. I came really close to doing that exact same thing. And I know what you mean about uh, for all of those pieces to make it into a single suite, and there's a lot of talk on the internet about that. So what I did was is I just made my own playlist and just
Yep.
made my own
And
side of that album.
and does it
Um,
work?
oh, it works great.
See?
Yeah.
Well, if you guys want an official version of how it works, the when Genesis did their two-night stand at the Lyceum in London in 1980, and there's all kinds of professionally shot video and audio out there of that. They did that whole Duke suite in that order on the stage, and
Yeah.
that took up
Yeah,
about the middle of the show.
May
So,
7th, 1980. Yeah, at the Lyceum Theater. I have that
yep,
on video somewhere in the house. But yeah,
yep,
oh yeah,
yeah. I think they did this. I think they recorded the seventh and the eighth, if memory serves right.
that's
So
right. That's right. That's right. And
they're
oh yeah,
they're out
talk
there.
talk about an amazing performance. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
and
great.
that's one of the shows where they did a truncated version of the knife.
Okay, okay. No, and you could probably get that even on the BBC sessions that was released last year.
I
Um,
think so. And it might have made up the video content of when they did the Duke re-release in 2007, 2008. It
that's
was
right.
on the DVD portion. So,
That's right. Okay, but we must carry on, ladies and gentlemen.
and
Over
it's so
to
good to talk about Duke, though. It's oh well. Number 10, right?
number 10.
Okay. Taking up the maple bar position in the box.
Oh
Uh,
Lord.
it's actually something from Wind and Wuthering.
You know you make
And
me hungry, right?
um, hey, I'd like to say all I'm doing is recounting my breakfast, but that's just not true. Um, okay, my number 10, Blood on the Rooftops, which to me is the single strongest tune from the album. Um, it's just so I believe Steve Hackett wrote the lyrics and Phil Collins did the music, and it's just phenomenally done. Just such a tender and delicate Steve Hackett acoustic guitar intro. Again, dripping with mellotrons,
Thank you.
and certainly the lyrical subject matter is even topical today, sad to say, but it's just one of the most fantastic cuts in the Genesis catalog. And just apropos of nothing, to me, that stint of Blood on the Rooftops and Unquiet Slumber, In That Quiet Earth, and Afterglow may be the strongest single sequencing of Genesis music on any of their albums. And this is coming from someone whose, love of Wind and Wuthering is it's all over the place. But
Save
man,
that for the
that
next
four
episode.
song closer, oh,
Hmm.
A plus 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 plus, baby.
Okay.
So Blood on the Rooftops, my number 10, Maple Bar, all the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Okay. Down to you, Ken.
Okay. My number 10 is also from Wind and Wuthering. It's Your Own Special Way. Great Rutherford track. And I feel like that I've heard the song before I ever heard the album. I know it was released as a single,
Mhm.
but I've researched it and I can't find any case of it being covered by anybody else. But yeah, when I first heard it, I'm thinking, I know this song. Um, it just really grabbed me. You've got that wonderful guitar part, and the melody is an example of beautiful simplicity. You know, does it, things don't have to be huge and complicated to be beautiful.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Solid.
Very solid. Very solid choice. It's sad to hear, though, that Tony Banks really doesn't care for the track. He says it goes on too long, in his opinion. But it's his opinion. Um,
Yeah.
okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this choice is going to shock some people. Okay, start your flatulence. Okay, for me, the next one on my list, Domino, Invisible Touch. Parts 1 and 2,
Domino, you say?
In the Glow of the Night, and The Last Domino. Side 2, um, I've always said, when people were saying that Genesis, they sold out, it became a pop band. I've always countered that by saying, each album did have, a lengthier composition with, shapes. You had Home by the Sea, Second Home by the Sea, and with Invisible Touch, you have Domino. Now, I will amend what I had said in the past. I do think that this album, Invisible Touch, um, is pop overkill, but I do believe that this one track um, is its saving grace. I mean, I just like the arrangement of part one, and it basically talks about someone who's set something in motion that a series of events in motion. Sorry, it's not a good day for me, guys. That they really can't stop, and they're trying to figure out how to get out of this situation unscathed or even alive at the end of the day, right? Um, and the part two, the last domino, the instrumentation, the drumming. Yes, it's electronic drumming. I understand that, and the keyboards are all emulators and program and shit. But for me, it works. And when Phil Collins comes in on vocals, Blood on the Windows, he comes in my opinion, white hot, and it's just sometimes doing it live, I've seen him do this live. It really doesn't cut the mustard, but the studio version for me is the definitive version of this track. So all you haters out there, come at me. Let's go. I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? It's fine. It's my opinion. I do think that this one track does retain its progginess in a sense, even though it's 80s production, Lynn drums and the whole bit and what have you. But it to me it's a classic. So
Mhm.
that's my number 10.
Yeah, fair enough.
Good one.
Absolutely.
Over to
Lots
the
of variety in the box.
yes, yes.
All right.
That is my Krispy Kreme of the box. Okay.
Hey, there we go. All right.
Over to
So
Jim.
I think this is going to be the first lamb flavored donut from the box, if memory serves right.
Oh, sweet
Um,
Jesus. Okay,
so
go ahead.
taking the custard filled position in the box for my number 9, it's the deep cut from side 3 of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. But to me, it is the emotional heart of the entire double album, and that is the Lamia. Um, Oh, I just absolutely love this tune from the delicate acoustic piano to the Steve's, blazing electric guitar solo to the end, to the whole lyrical journey of, um, kind of emulating what is it, the sirens from Greek mythology, but of course with a lot more Peter Gabriel weirdness going on. Um, it's just such an absolutely stunning tune, lyrically, musically. It's the highlight of that album, and I think it's definitely worthy of a top 10 position in their entire catalog. It's just so fantastic, and I wish that they had done this live more than they did. I wish they had resurrected it from 1975 and not left it on the lamb cutlet heap, as it were. And that they had trotted it out like, In the Cage and Carpet Crawlers and other songs like that. But yeah, if you haven't heard the Lamia, take a solid dive into it, friends. It is just absolutely fantastic. My number 9.
Okay. Okay. Ken.
My number 9, I'm going over to Trick of the Tail with Dance on a Volcano. It has everything. For me, it has everything, and it's an absolute classic album opener. So, yeah, it reaches out and just grabs you, when you first put the needle down. So, a lot of the Genesis stuff, I don't have a lot of analyzation
Yeah,
because to me, it's especially the early albums, I hear them as a whole,
I
uh,
get you. I got
and
it.
not a collection of individual songs like later on. And so, but anyway, yeah, Dance on a Volcano well, like I said, it has everything, and the arrangement's incredible. Just everything about it I love. So not much else to say.
Good
It's
choice.
funny, Ken. You're saying, you put the needle down and kind of off you go. It just made me think about it in my head. This is the first. Most Genesis albums start with some single musical element. Dance on a Volcano, you got Steve Hackett's guitar. Lamb Lies Down, you've got Tony Banks's guitar figure. Selling England, you've got Peter Gabriel's voice.
Mhm.
Foxtrot, you've got the Mellotrons for Watch for the Skies. And you got to go all the way back to Nursery Crime with the opening track of the musical box to get just a guitar intro to an album. But even that's like an acoustic 12 string intro.
Yes.
So to have something with this flavor and also with David Henschel's production just really brightens it up. And so it definitely ain't sounding like, your Big Brother's Genesis albums at
Mm.
all. This is just like a call to arms that something different is going on. And it's a killer.
No, I agree, and that's why it's my choice. Um,
Is that your number 9?
yes, it is.
Excellent.
We were gonna overlap at some point. We were
Oh, at
gonna.
some point.
Um, I have a a history with this because this is the first Genesis album that Trick of the Tail that I really took to. I mean, I got into Genesis full time in 1990. Um, I went out one day and I bought all the albums, just in one fell swoop. Um, thank God my mom had a limit on a credit card. But listening to this track, it's the first track that really grabbed me, and for those of you watching, if you want to watch a video of someone breaking down this composition, Rick Beato's got a video out there talking about, how great this track is.
Yep.
And the fact that it goes from, according to Rick Beato, 4/4 to 11/16, in terms of time signatures and just the way it just comes in, right? It basically grabs you by the throat and it doesn't let go until it's ready to let go at the end of the song. Um, and Ken is right, there's everything in here. And what I liked about this album as a whole, it was more linear, from A to B to C to D. You had Phil Collins, again, who reluctantly took up the mantle of lead singer, who presented himself more as a uh, guy next door kind of figure as opposed to, you know, otherworldly traveler, that that Gabriel had done, with the paint and the masks and the bat wings and all that kind of stuff. This album for me and this track for me was more palatable in terms of arrangements and stuff, the way it was done. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a upbeat track. It's an upbeat album, and I think Phil Collins sings the shit out of this song in terms of a vocal delivery. You know what I mean?
I
So,
agree.
I try not to swear, but it doesn't work for me. I don't know. I can't help it. So yeah, that's my choice. Dance on Volcano. Number
Alrighty
nine.
then.
Yeah.
To me, to
Yes.
number 8.
Man of the hour. Go ahead.
Excuse me, that's me. So we're kind of keeping with a trick of the tail theme here with my tune and the chocolate cake with colored sprinkles position within the box. And this is the
Oh Lord.
closer. This is Los Endos. Um, had I allowed myself the latitude to pick the medley version of Dance on a Volcano and Los Endos from Seconds Out, I would have chosen that. But I really wanted to stick with tracks that were, you know, separately banded, if you will.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Los Endos is just phenomenal. I think it's primarily a fill track, grabbing bits and pieces from other Genesis things to sort of create this uber medley uh, with this kind of, high octane, Santana type percussion driving it.
He's
Um,
relentless on this.
oh yeah, absolutely. Love me some Los Endos live, and and the version on Trick of the Tail ain't half bad either because you get the little angel standing in the sun vocal tag, which you don't hear live. So it's fantastic to get that included, and yeah, it's just such a powerful way to kind of close the album. Um,
Mhm.
Genesis has got some really great closers in their catalog, some of the best in recorded music, and this is
Yeah.
definitely one of them. So, Los Endos, my number 8.
Sweet.
Sweet.
Oh yeah,
Real
it's
sweet.
chocolate cake with sprinkles, sweet. That's what it is, baby.
I'm sweet enough. I don't need the sprinkles. That's okay. Um,
Hey,
move on. Better than
stop.
calling yourself sour. Okay, Ken, down to you. You're number
Yeah,
8.
Romano, I agree with everything you said about this album, Trick of the Tail. And I think it was uh I think no matter how much the fans at the time um were disappointed that Gabriel left, but were kind of a lot was pretty much okay with Phil Collins taking over. Um, but I would imagine that there was still some concern. Um, and I think this album, especially considering where it falls in their catalog, just it's a home run for me. It didn't just come out okay. It's a strong album.
Yeah.
And I think it put a lot of people at ease, and I think a lot of people were encouraged. And my number eight, and this is my favorite Genesis song title, Squonk. I love Squonk.
Okay.
It's just a classic song. And and even just if you've never heard the album, just hearing the name of the song makes you want to go listen to it. What's this about?
Yeah. It's about
But
6.5 minutes. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
yeah, I
And
know.
it starts off seconds out.
It does.
But it's just such a good track. It's nothing, like I said, a lot of mine aren't real complicated but there's a reason that this is a well-beloved song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about deep cuts in their catalog and whatever, and I rarely consider anything a deep cut because um I've always been involved in conversations about the band and these albums.
Yeah.
And so, and um, so, all of these show up on lists all over the place. But anyway, I
Yeah.
digress.
Hmm.
Uh, Squonk is number eight, and it's a hill I'm willing to croak on.
Okay. Just to sort of expand on what you were saying about the album, what I was saying about Phil Collins taking over the vocals, he was worried about how he was going to approach doing the material live. Okay. And little footnote, Hamilton, Ontario was the first date on the uh, Trick of the Tail tour. And he basically approached it as, again, as he put it, bloke next door, right? Just your everyday average individual, as opposed to, this mystical individual coming in all this garb and dress and all that kind of stuff and lights and he just related to the audience as one of them kind of thing. And it worked. It worked for them. And this album overall is listed by the band as a very happy album to make, Steve Hackett included. You know what I mean? So, but enough of that. My number eight, we must carry on, ladies and gentlemen. Another repeat, Your Own Special Way. Um, from Wind and Wuthering. You know what? A good song is a good song. And you know, a catchy hook is a catchy hook. This is both. And I think it's just a beautifully crafted track. The sentiment is just gorgeous. Um, you know, Tony Banks be damned. You don't like it, you don't like it. Fine. Cut here, cut there, whatever. But it was their first chart hit in the US, charting at 62 when it came out. A minor hit, but you know what? It got them on the board in terms of the charts. And it's just a beautifully crafted pop song, you know, but keeping its prog-esque elements intact, I think, you know. So that's my number eight. Over to the man of the hour.
On to number seven. All right, my number seven. Uh, this is occupying the cinnamon twist position in the box. And this is another leadoff track. The leadoff from Duke, which everyone knows we all love. This is Behind the Lines. Um, what to say about it? That fanfare in the beginning, just the kind of lyrical theme of longing and really wanting to connect with someone. Just the way the song heightens and grows and sort of goes back into the outro, which of course excuse me, goes into Duchess, which I don't have here because it's just one song. But yeah, Behind the Lines is just peak Genesis to me. I absolutely adore the song, and my first exposure to this was the Phil Collins version from Face Value. So I came back into Duke. I'm like, huh, this is a little different, but grew to love it as much as I did the funky Motownified version on Phil's Face Value record. But yeah, Behind the Lines, banger number 7. Absolutely adore it.
Okay, here's a quick question. With hindsight, which version do you prefer?
I don't think I could. I don't think I can make that call because it just depends on the flow of the record. I mean, the Face Value version would not work at all with Duke,
Hmm.
and then the Duke version, of course, would just make things kind of fall apart within Face Value. So it really kind of depends on what I want to listen to.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I can't. Between the two, I can't distinguish. Oh, I prefer this one over that one.
yeah. No, okay. I tend to prefer the Duke version myself, but fair enough. All right.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with the Duke version. As clearly
Yeah.
as I've thrown it out there, there is nothing wrong with the Duke version.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay.
Certainly.
Certainly. All right. Ken, over to you.
Number 7, Deep in the Mother Lode from And Then There Were Three.
Ooh.
Um,
Go
at this
West, young
point,
man.
there were a lot of Genesis fans that, again, there was wailing and gnashing of teeth, um, and just, losing another guitarist. But I find this still very much in the same vein as the several albums before it. It still sounds like Genesis to me. Um, just the arrangements are just a little bit different. Um, Deep in the Mother Lode, as well as most of the other stuff on the album, it's new, but it still sounds, for want of a better term, the traditional Genesis.
Hmm.
Um, I think Henschel continues to do a great job here. Of course, after this, comes Duke, and still produced by Henschel in the band, and I'm not quite sure um, what they did differently, production wise, because it definitely has a different sound to me. But I remember having And Then There Were Three on cassette and just played the heck out of that in my car when I was doing a lot of traveling at the time,
Mm.
and just wore that sucker out. Um, still love the album to this day, but it's one of my favorites off of that.
Yeah. Little side note. I remember being a kid and being in my brother-in-law's car and looking at all his cassettes and just like looking at the cassettes and just reading what was on the. And I miss that. I miss that. Like actually sitting in the car, going for a nice long
Yeah,
drive and just putting in the cassette and listening to music and just
yeah,
losing yourself in that moment, right? It is an experience, ladies and gentlemen, that you don't get today anymore. You know what I mean? It's a lost art. Let's put it that way to me, anyways. Um, Good choice. Um, Now that the video configuration here is a bit screwed up, I got to remember where I am on the list here. So,
Number 7.
because right now you're at the bottom of the screen right now, Jim. So,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
okay, number 7. Let's do some Abacab, shall we, gentlemen, and go with Keep It Dark. Um, just to me, just a very simple arranged piece of music, just beautifully done. Um, Done according to Mike Rutherford in 4/4 time. I'm quoting Mike Rutherford here. Just a beautiful story about this man who goes missing and he's been abducted by aliens and He's shown a world that is beyond belief, and he's basically being told, without being told, this is what you could have. This is the utopia you could have. Okay. If only you people on earth would listen and just follow these simple rules of whatever they may be. But he's also told to keep it under wraps, and he's returned back to Earth, and he's sworn to secrecy, and he keeps that secret. But just the choruses, the way it's just bright keyboards and bright vocals, very ethereal vocals that are done, in my humble opinion, just a very optimistic track. You know what I mean? It's just the way it's arranged, etc. And the video is just, it's them having fun. You know what I mean? It's Genesis showing their human side, their comedic side to it, right? I mean, in the field, sitting in the field, you know, see no evil, hear no evil, whatever, tell no evil kind of a thing. I've always loved this track for its simplicity and its execution, but it's just a beautiful song. So
Agree.
that's why it's on my list.
Did you guys know that the drum track on that is a loop?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
right.
all right.
That's right.
Everyone knows. Okay.
And I saw them do this live on the Mama tour on the Mama um, VHS kit thing concert,
Yeah.
and I prefer the studio take. I just there are times when Phil can be a little goofy when he's doing this live, or just I don't know. I prefer the studio version than to the live version. So
hmm I
okay,
thought that it was nice the way they did it live on that tour was to segue right immediately into it's going to get better. I thought that was a nice choice.
yeah, yeah. No, that was I don't know. I just it, to me, it's a very poignant song. Keep it dark. It has a
Yeah.
very poignant and deep message, and a very sincere message. And I just think there's certain things, certain songs, you don't you don't need to fool around with. You don't need to have a comedic twist to it.
Right.
And when he does this sort of like I think it was like an Egyptian kind of dance where I was like, you know what? I don't need to see that. Just keep it simple, keep it to the point. It's an eloquent track. Keep the eloquence in the track. But I'm not one to gossip, so you didn't hear that from me. Um, moving down to Jim, the man of the hour, for his next one.
All right. Number six.
Yes,
Let's
number
see.
six.
We are in the powdered donut position in the box with this. And to get to this track, you got to take Abacab. You got to turn the record over, drop the needle, slamming you right into Dodo and Lurker. That is my number
Okay.
six.
Okay.
Um, strong, strong tune. You know, um, people sort of complain about Genesis going commercial during this time, but I always just kind of point to Dodo Lurker and say, look at that. You look at that and tell me that they've sort of gone commercial. It's definitely sounding different than anything else that's been on previous Genesis albums, at least that come to mind right now. But it's also, um, it's not sort of, going to the popular norms or whatever.
Mm.
They're staying true to themselves while taking a different road. And Abacab is just full of that. All the tunes, even the B-sides and the things that were unreleased, um, or relegated to Three Sides Live or the 3x3. Anyway, Abacab is a great album to me, and Dodo Lurker is the standout for me. So there's my that's my Avocab pick in the box.
That's a good choice.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Ken.
Number six. Um, can pretty much say the same thing about this as I did my number seven. And that's also from And Then There Were Three is Snowbound. Um, add to that, just incredible vocals on this. Incredible. It just there again, it's a combination of the new and the old, and pointing the direction on what's going to come next. So yeah. Also from And Then There Were Three, Snowbound. Just a great song.
Yeah.
I gotta listen to And Then There Were Three again. I haven't listened to that album in years. I gotta revisit that, um, for obvious reasons. Um, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. Okay, hmm, my number six, Fading Lights
Good
from
choice.
We Can't Dance. Now, everyone craps all over this album, and I will concede that this album over time has not stood the test of time on certain tracks. This track to me is the exception. 10 minutes plus. Um, uh, you know, Programmed drums or not, I do not give a flying crap. I really don't. A good
It's a great
song
tune.
is a good song. And you know, even the opening lyric, another time it may have been so different. If only we could do it all again. I mean, where do you go from there when you hear that? I mean, it's intricate, it's heavy. The breakdown section where they go into that extended instrumental section with, Tony Banks doing the crosshand keyboard passages. It is just amazing. The drums are heavy, the guitars are there, not overly so, but they're still there. Okay. Um, and it is just a beautiful, eloquent song. And the sentiment, I mean, when you hear that, obviously, when you look back on it now, you know what was going to come, right? I mean, that was the end of their chapter with Phil Collins, right? And they could never recapture what they had with Phil, as they could never recapture what they had with Peter Gabriel. But to me, this ending was the definitive ending. You knew that something was going to go down, looking back on it. So it's just a beautiful way to end off the album, and it's a beautiful way to end off this chapter of Genesis for the time being, you know. I just think it's a fantastic piece of work, and I'll stick by it. And again, all you haters out there, let's go. Come at me. Come on. Bring it on.
Rumble.
Yeah, let's take it outside, that kind of a thing. But it's true. It's just, I think out of all the songs, the singles, No Son of Mine, Jesus, He Knows Me, uh, Driving the Last Spec, I think that this one track, Fading Lights, out, outlasts them all. And I think it's just a beautiful, well-crafted piece of pop prog. Yes, I said it. Pop prog. Okay.
Yep.
And the proof is in the arrangements, it's in the production. Nick Davis does a good job on the production. I know, Jim, you said before you didn't like the work he did on some of the remasters from '07, but
Yep.
this on full stereo, hello, they've
Oh
arrived.
yeah. Yeah.
And they did this live on the We Can't Dance tour, and it was monster. It was just, sitting there third row floors watching them do it. It was just like sensory overload, like, I mean, it was amazing. So that's my number six
Good one.
on the list. Go ahead.
Numero cinco
Yes.
for me. Okay, this is taking the lemon filled donut position. Um, this would be from Three Sides Live again, one that just makes the studio version sound like weak and and just completely tepid. Fountain of Salmacis.
Ooh,
Now this one,
good
boys
Lord,
and
man.
girls, yeah, this is you got your whatever synthesizers, you got your mellotrons,
Dripping. Thank
you
you.
got your Rutherford going out to lunch on the bass and the pedals. You've got a killer guitar outro. You've got these crazy drum figures going on with Phil and Chester. I mean, the Fountain of Salamathus thematically shares a lot with one of the other tunes on my list, which is the Lamia. But Fountain of Salmacis, whereas the Lamia is kind of more introspective, Fountain of Salmacis is just this glorious kind of outpouring, exaggerated piece of musical theater. And hokey smoke, Bullwinkle, this is just utterly fantastic. I would for me, I would be fine if the studio version never existed, then there was only just the live version. It's just so powerful. Um, yep, that is my number five. Fountain of Salmacis, baby.
Interesting choice.
Cool.
I think so. I think it's compelling. I think it's a compelling choice, Armando.
Interesting. Well, yeah, you went back in the catalog for that one. My God.
Well,
Nursery crime. My God. Okay. All right. Hey,
one could argue that I just only, I was staying within the zone that we were in. I was in the three-man era, but,
one could argue. Yes, they could.
one could
We won't
argue.
argue.
Mhm.
We'll continue. Ken.
Number five, also from Three Sides Live, except this is off the fourth side. Paper Lake.
Okay,
Ah,
It falls in that same category as, we talk about the Phil Collins solo version Behind the Lines and No Reply at All and stuff. And
yeah.
I just think it's just very, very well done. I know it was released as a single in Great Britain.
In
I don't
Canada as well
remember
in
if
North America. Yep.
yeah. But I didn't hear it till I bought the album, So, and I'm really kind of disappointed in when the streaming services they have three sides live, but they only have the three live sides. They don't, have these. So you have to kind of hunt them down
Yeah.
um, off of various anthologies and
yeah,
whatnot.
Yeah. And it's
But
put together piecemeal kind of a thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got you.
But yeah, and I love the live part of that album. Actually it was the first live Genesis album I ever bought. Um, so it really caught me by surprise flipping that second album over and hearing these studio takes. So very pleasantly surprised. But yeah, Paper Late's always just just a good, catchy, upbeat toe tapping tune.
Yep. Yep.
Yep, yep.
now, so Armando, you're going to have to provide the Canadian perspective on this. In the US, when Three Sides Live first came out, that's what it was. It was a four-sided album with three sides of it being live. The fourth side was all of the EP and B sides that never were released in America. So you got your Paper Late, You Might Recall, Me and Virgil, Evidence of Autumn, and Open Door. I think those are
Yeah.
the
There
five.
was it was the same. It was the same in Canada. The record companies didn't differentiate from Canada to
Okay,
America in terms of what was released on the albums. If you wanted the full concert, I think you'd have to get the British import
right,
or a Japanese import or a German import of Three Sides Live for the full
right.
show.
And then at some point along the way, they just decided, oh, let's make the full live version, the official version. And I don't know when they did that. I'm thinking 94-ish.
I'm thinking 94, 90, yeah, mid 90s. And yeah, that pissed me off because I had to buy it over and try and buy it over again. I didn't do it, but I'm like, oh, now I got to get this again. I want because I wanted the full show. So, I mean, because there was a time when I was listening to Genesis, I dove in, man, head first. And I was just like, give me more, So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I get you. Yeah. That's how they did it. They didn't again differentiate between the US and Canada. If it was North America, it was North America across the
Yep.
board.
Gotcha.
But all right, well, we must continue, ladies and gentlemen. My next choice, uh, God, don't shoot me. Home by the Sea, parts one and two. Um, this is their.
Hold on. Got to
Yeah,
get my gun. Be right back.
okay, go ahead. Um, how good of a shot are you? Anyways,
From here to Canada, poor.
there you go. There you go. Oh, I'll go hide now. Um, this is the one extended piece of music that's on, the Shapes album. Um, yes, it's a pop song, but if you look at the subject matter, totally unorthodox. Thieves break into a house only to find out that the house is haunted by ghosts. And the ghosts trap them in the house and say, you know what? You're not leaving until we tell you can go. You have to listen to us right now. We're going to relive our lives and give you our experiences. Sit down and enjoy. And
Yeah.
you know what? And this scares the shit out of the themes overall. You know what I mean? Think about it. It's a ghost story with a comedic twist. Like you think you're going to get the better of us, we got the better of you, kind of a thing. So, I just love the arrangement of the song. It was my sister Carmela's favorite track on the album, both parts one and two. And the first time I actually heard this song was on the Invisible Touch tour concert that was released. Um, I just think it's well crafted and it's a good pop song with a good story behind it you know, and that's my next choice. So, okay, down to Jim, as I see on my screen.
Number 4.
Yes.
Okay. I don't think this track has been mentioned, and frankly, I'm kind of surprised. This is taking up the sticky bun position within the box, ladies and gentlemen. It's from Selling England by the Pound, and there's going to be a lot of pounds if we eat all these donuts. But I am talking about the third track on side one. I'm talking about Firth of Fifth.
Uh-huh.
Uh, what can you say about this? Lovely piano introduction that sadly didn't get played much live. Um, Maybe the definitive Steve Hackett guitar solo within Genesis. Um, Absolutely just smashing work. I mean, yes, Tony wrote the melody of the guitar solo, but Hackett was the one who just carried it over the goal line and spiked that SOB. Man, is that just a monster of a track. Um,
Yep.
almost, almost would pick the Seconds Out version, just because I think Genesis as a performing act was stronger than
Hmm.
they were back in 1973. But since it has the piano introduction, that seals the deal for me. So the Selling England by the Pound version, Firth of Fifth, number 4.
All right. To me, that is, if we're counting solos, that's got to be a top Steve Hackett solo.
Yeah.
It has
Oh,
to be. And
absolutely.
not to take away anything from Daryl Sturmer, who does a great version of it when he performed with them, but Steve Hackett is Steve Hackett. Damn it. And
Yep.
that's the way it is. So um, all right. Ken.
Okay, I'm dipping my toe into Duke, metaphorically. I'm going with Duchess. I just find it's one of those great story songs. It fits well within the whole Duke suite as it is, but it stands perfectly well on its own, and it's to me it's very cinematic. I really do when I sit, if I'm not doing anything else, I will close my eyes and I can see it unfold as I'm listening to it. Um,
Yeah.
uh, it's it's interesting. It's dramatic. It's probably um, for a lot for a lot of artists somewhat autobiographical, but uh,
Yeah. I'm not
uh,
going to say names, Taylor Swift. Moving on.
yeah,
Um,
and really
Neither
interesting.
will I, Madonna.
Yeah, and really interesting considering um, uh, with Duke is with Abacab, sure, but even with Duke, there were a lot of naysayers about
yeah.
Genesis going pop. And so they're telling the story of what might have been, but the reality is of Genesis is completely different. So it's just sonically, story wise, lyric wise, um, the execution is phenomenal. And we know that on Duke is when Phil Collins really came into his own as far as his vocals.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
That's what Tony
oh
Banks has
my
said.
gosh, yeah, and strong vocals. I often wonder what the earlier albums would have sounded like if he sang with that kind of um, strength and power. It, would have been a
Yeah.
whole different story. But he started here and continued on. So yeah, Duke's my favorite Genesis album, and Duchess is one of my favorite songs off of it.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Um, my next choice is from Duke, Turn It On Again. Um, y- you know, this was when I first put the name Genesis to the faces, like Phil Collins singing, and this track was a staple on FM radio in Canada, and in North America. I mean, my God, um, and it's funny because you know Mike Rutherford says that it's in 4/4 time, but Phil Collins says it's in 13/8 time. Because he's the drummer, right? So he's like, no, 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 it's not 4/4, it's 13/8, and he's like, okay, well, whatever you say. I just think it's a fantastic track. It's strong musically. The drums are just crushing it. Um, Vocally, Phil Collins again doing the harmonies, just great. And yes, when they do it live, he goes into his bloody Egyptian dance kind of thing, like that makes it very juvenile in my opinion, but I think the studio version for me is always the better version with this track. I just think that as a lead-off single, this was a good choice. And little footnote, the record company wanted Alone Tonight to be the lead-off single, and the band said, "No, you're crazy. Turn it on again. This is what we're going to do." Oh, we feel it. No, 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 no. We're the band. This is what we want to do. This is what we're going to back. And it was like a top 40 hit for them in North America. So, and it's
Mm.
still played on FM radio today. So,
Oh yeah, it's become a classic.
yeah. And again, they've done it in various medleys. I think the lowest of the low is when they did it live and they tried to do a Blues Brothers medley with it. And no, no. Now you're scraping the bottom of the barrel and you're becoming a parody of yourself.
That
Keep,
was the Shapes tour. Yep.
keep it to the original. And they realized that people were laughing at them when they did that. So they're like, okay, we'll drop that. We'll just get it back to the original format. Keep it in the medley, but we're not going to do any hokey kind of costuming and stuff. I just think that it's a fantastic song. It brings me back to being 10 years old again. I remember this when it came out. I loved it then. I love it now. I love it till I'm gone. And it's a fantastic piece of work.
Well said, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I try. Um, some say I'm very trying, but anyways, moving on. Um, yeah, boom. Okay. Down to Jim for his next one.
Number three,
Yes.
the chocolate old fashioned selection.
Oh God.
And what a selection it is. It's the seconds out version of Supper's Ready. Um, Supper's Ready. I don't think you mentioned this, Armando, but you said you covered Supper's Ready in the episode that you did about a year and a half ago. Like, is this the greatest prog song of all time? But you never answered the question for us.
I
Is it
think
the
it
greatest
is.
prog song?
I
Okay,
think it
all
is.
right. I'd have to say that it's definitely up there. Definitely it's in the top two or three that always gets tossed around. If it's not this, it's close to the edge, or Starless or something like that. So
Yeah.
you're not gonna make any enemies quoting Supper's Ready, that's for sure. Love Beach, yeah, you'll get some enemies, but Supper's Ready, no, you're fine.
Love Beach, you better
Um,
put on a bulletproof vest if you're going to talk about that and bestow its virtues and stuff.
Absolutely. I picked the Supper's Ready version because the band is just so much stronger, so much tighter 5 years in. Plus, the production by David Henschel is just uh, more sonically pleasing than the John Burns version from '72. Um, I think Phil is a stronger vocalist than Peter. I think Peter has more depth of character, shall we call it, but Phil's just a better singer to me. Um, but yeah, Supper's Ready's been talked about ad infinitum. So I'm just going to say it's my number three. And yes, I feel that there are two Genesis songs better than that one, and I will die on that hill.
Okay, good choice. Good choice. Ken?
Number three, moving ahead to Abacab, no reply at all.
Ooh, good one.
This falls into the same category as Paper Late and those. I I do this the bass line, the bass guitar in this song is just absolutely unbelievable.
Monster.
And whereas the keyboard parts aren't complex, there's just something I find just very interesting about them. It's um it's simple in form, but I sat down at the piano and tried to recreate some of it, and it's no, it's just because it sounds simple doesn't mean it is, but it's very, very effective in what they're doing. And this is a song is really takes that Peter Gabriel, I mean Phil Collins with the brass section, but still the keyboards are very much have more in common with the previous Genesis. So
Mhm.
this really is a melding of the two styles, and it works wonderfully. Um, like I say, I love the bass line, and I've seen on social media and analysis where there have been several people that they say there is no way um, that it wasn't a session player playing that bass line. And so I've scoured every single, video and, trying to live videos to really see if I can tell, who's playing it live. And
Yeah.
it's not definitive, but considering a lot of um, um, Mike's other bass work, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh yeah.
It's just
Mhm.
you know, it's just the craft of this song is just incredible.
Yeah.
Everything is incredible.
It's very tight,
And
very, yeah, in the
yeah,
pocket.
and it's and the stories of if you watch the classic album video edition of Face Value, they talk about um,
Yeah.
Phil Collins didn't, he had a definite idea of what he wanted the brass to play, but he had no way, he didn't know how to put them down on paper for the musicians to play
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. It was, yeah, I saw that.
And so, this applies to, these same songs too, because rhythmically, all these brass lines they're not just regular brass lines. These are not
No.
Chicago styled brass lines.
No.
Rhythmically, um, they're very Phil Collins and very intricate, and
Yeah.
you can't predict where it's going to go, and it's
Hmm.
very effective. Let's say the craft of this song alone is admirable,
Hmm.
but I just love everything about it, the sound, the execution. Yeah,
Hmm.
no reply at all. It's just one of my all-time favorites.
I call it pop confection.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Which fits in the donut thing. Yeah. Confetti.
Exactly.
It
But
does. It
yeah,
does.
yeah, but not sprinkles. I hate sprinkles. Um, they
It's
get
the
caught.
chocolate old fashioned. That's the section we're in right now.
There you go. We're in the chocolate old fashioned. God. Okay. All right. My next one, number three, is we're going back to A Trick of the Tail and Entangled. Um, Beautiful, rich, dripping with melodram. Jim, dripping with thank you. Thank you. Oh, a double shot. I love it. Great. Um, Done in 3/4 time. This was a co-write between Hackett and Banks, one of the few times that they actually wrote together. Just a very melodic, beautiful, entrancing kind of a song. It pulls you in. You're in a dream state when you hear this song. You know what I mean? And it's just beautiful, melodic, beautiful, sumptuous, whatever you want to call it. It is that. And it's kind of eerie too on the ending, on the outro, the way it ends. It's very eerie. Okay. And it being, close to Halloween. Hello. Uh,
Mm.
you know, but I just think it's a very beautiful melodic piece of eloquent music, and it had to be on the list. Like this was
Yeah.
all going to be on the list no matter what. I just didn't know where it was going to go, but
Yeah.
it's on the list. Entangled, Trick of the Tail, 1976. There you go.
And
Um,
for our viewers, we want to make sure that you understand this is the song Entangled, not the Disney animated movie.
yes, yes.
Totally.
Good distinction, Ken. Boy, am I glad that you're here.
Yeah, yeah.
Oof.
Good to point out. Good to
Otherwise,
point out.
people are going to get confused.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Jim.
Number two, first of all, I need to say that if I had to do my list over again, I'm pretty sure that Entangled would be up here in the baker's dozen. As it is, it's in my number 20 slot, but I feel I need to go back to school and
Okay.
redo my list.
Okay.
Because yeah, Entangled was just so freaking amazing. Okay. So for the number two and the number one spots, we're going to the probably the craziest boutique donut shop in the Bay Area called Psycho Donuts.
Oh Lord.
And this one comes with the Captain Crunch topping. So it's the Captain Crunch donut from Psycho Donuts. And the number two track that gets the Captain Crunch pole position is Dance on a Volcano, which we've talked about. Lead
Yeah.
off from Trick of the Tail, um, has 6 different meter changes in the first minute, but it flows like butter. It's just an utterly fantastic tune, and yeah, it's very much a shot over the bow to people who thought that Genesis was just going to roll over and die without Peter Gabriel, but
Yeah.
Nope. You drop the needle on that toad and it just blows your ears off. Um,
Yep.
Absolutely fantastic. I love me some Dance on a Volcano. Always
Mhm.
will. Yeah, numero dos, right there.
Gracias.
Sure. Have it with some Captain Crunch.
There you go. Gracias. All right. Ken.
Number two, Abacab. One of
Oh,
my favorite album openers. Um, it's, I've talked on other videos about um, how they came up with the name. It has to do with the form of the song.
yeah.
But I think one of the things, it's catchy as all get out,
Oh
but
yeah.
the arrangement is wonderful. But it's one thing I like about it, in some ways, it harkens back to earlier Genesis in that uh, there's a lot, most of the song is vocals, or at least over half. But then there is a very good portion of this song that is just instrumental,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, so which most pop songs aren't. Most pop songs are
Hmm.
just, vocal from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And this is one of my arguments against this being a pop sellout album.
It's not.
It is not. And to me, this song is absolutely infectious. There's a lot of songs on this album that are infectious to me.
Yeah.
Um, so it's definitely in my top three Genesis albums. Because honestly, I didn't come into Genesis um, until, and then there were three. I wasn't that familiar with the earlier albums, and a lot of um, my loving music albums artists still tend to gravitate towards my entry into the
Hmm.
band. And
Makes sense.
yeah, yeah. So for me, and then there were three. Duke and Abacab is the trifecta. A lot of good stuff after that. A
Yeah.
lot of good stuff before it. But that's going to be the top tier of my pyramid. So
Yeah.
yeah, my number two, the catchy as all get out, infectious Abacab.
Yeah. I'll try and make this as succinct as I can. I've said that good luck. I've said Abacab for me was an album that Genesis needed to make. It was a necessary turn that they had to take.
Sure.
If they didn't, they would have become a parody of themselves. Um, and a lot of people crap all over this album, but you know what? When I think back to 1981 or the summer of 81 into 82, I think of albums like Abacab, Foreigner 4, AC/DC for those about to rock. Those albums were all over radio in terms of like what was played at the time. And Abacab was a monster album. There was no way
Oh
around.
yeah.
So for anyone that's going to downgrade it and say that, oh, it's not Genesis, it's not prog, it's not, you know what? Nothing stays the same, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing ever does stay the same. The only constant in life is change, and
And
you
death and taxes.
death and taxes. Thanks for bringing it down. And then you can't get away from that. So, I mean, I think, again, Abacab as an album, I think it was a necessary step for the band to make. I think it's just fantastic. Yes, Who Done It included. I'm sorry, I got to give the album another really good listen to. Um, but I think it's
Well,
a,
it's funny that the same people who call Abacab a pop sellout album forget about how totally left field Who Done It is. I mean, that
yeah,
is not a pop
Oh yeah.
sellout kind of
yeah,
song
no,
at
no,
Yeah.
all.
true enough, true enough, true enough. We must carry on, ladies and gentlemen. My number two on the list. We're going back to The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway for In the Cage. Um,
Talk about your Michael Rutherford bass line.
Oh
Yeah.
The last
God,
third of this song is
it,
on fire.
it starts off very slow, very ominous, like with the bass drum and the bass pedals and the organ that comes in, and with Peter Gabriel, singing "I Got Sunshine in My Stomach," like I just rocked my baby to sleep. You know what I mean? It's just, and it builds and builds and builds, and then the keyboards come in, or the organ comes in as I hear it, and it just builds and builds and builds, and it's just, you know, it's very cinematic, very atmospheric in terms of the arrangement of the track, and then the middle section comes in uh with Tony Banks on that keyboard solo. He goes nuts on the keyboards with that solo, just ballistic. And then the breakdown section comes in, and then Peter Gabriel comes back in, talking about seeing his brother John. You know what I mean? It's just, it's all there. It's cinema, it's music, all within that one song. And then for me, when I hear the lyrics, raindrops keep falling on my head, I just imagine him just spinning very slowly in a circle, and just, as the tempo increases, his spinning increases, and it just goes crazy. He's just basically losing his mind as it goes along, you know what I mean, within the song. I've always loved the track, studio and live version alike, but I just think that, yes, it was a staple within the Genesis set for the longest time. And it was one of the tracks that Tony Banks said that they could play as a standalone track without it having really to do anything with the rest of the album. Whereas other songs like the Lamia, etc., had to be played within the context of the album itself, right? You couldn't
Well,
separate
me
them.
and Tony need to have a discussion about that.
But but
What does he know?
I love I love this track. I love the arrangement, the cinematic aspect of it, the whole feel of it. I just think it's fantastic. So that's my next choice, In the Cage.
Cool.
Muy bueno.
Gracias. All right,
Number one.
Jim.
So this requires the most specialist of donuts, which again comes from Psycho Donuts here in the Bay Area, which is your maple bacon donut. So taking the pole position on the maple bacon spot, number one is the seconds out version of Cinema Show, wherein Messieurs Hackett, Rutherford, Banks, Collins, and Bruford just are absolutely out to lunch. Um, now,
Okay.
um, the first three guys, they're holding everything together. Bruford has commented that in his time in the Genesis drum chair, he rarely wanted to play the same thing, twice, let alone once. And so he was kind of like the chief agitator in like messing around with the beat and maybe not hitting the cues exactly where everyone was comfortable with it, which is why he only lasted one tour. But once you get into the instrumental intro section at the end with him and Phil on drums together, it's just completely bananas.
Game
Hearing those
over.
two guys, it's like it's hard to find the one because they're just so their drumming is so locked in, but it's also very off and out there. Um, if there's not many points in the Genesis Live catalog where you can kind of say, huh, this might be mistaken for a John Zorn record. Hearing Phil and Bruford on the drumming on the end of Cinema Show comes pretty darn close to me. It's just absolutely phenomenal and my absolute favorite Genesis Live moment and my favorite within their whole catalog. So that's my number one, the live version of Cinema Show from Seconds Out. Maple bacon.
Maple bacon. Okay. All right. Ken.
My number one, Armando, I'm gonna echo one of your earlier choices, and that's Behind the Lines. Um, I don't know, you stated things very well. Um, but talking about Behind the Lines and then, your choice, the last two tracks of this album, they don't hold anything back on them.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't get any more just, pure power.
Yeah.
They pull out all the stops. Um,
Excuse
and
me.
this Behind the Lines is another one of my favorite openers to a Genesis album. This is, I think, what the fourth on my entire list. That's an album opener. After all the videos we've done, you know how much I love openers and closers that just seal the deal. That first drop of the needle and until you pick it up at the end. Um, yeah, with the fanfare and everything on Behind the Lines. I also love the Collins solo version, but it's reworked so much. I really don't think of it as a cover. It's
Fair enough.
comparing apples and oranges to me,
It's fair
and
enough.
but uh, and for it to be done so differently than the Genesis version, yet still be so incredibly good, just kind of goes to show the creativity and the genius of what Phil Collins envisioned on that album. Kind of
Mhm.
makes me, I wish I knew if he had envisioned that um, within the band before starting the solo album. I don't know. Like
He did.
maybe that idea was just hanging around in his head and until he would hopefully get a chance to do it. And then he did, and boy, did he do it.
Well,
So
the story goes is that as they were playing back tracks while they were, editing the album, is that
I
they would
remember
like
that.
play the tune at like 1.5 speed.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
to him, that gave him that Jackson 5 kind
That's
of
right.
vibe to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And so that stuck in his head, and he's like, hey, here's a chance to do that. So,
Well, one of the things he did, he in within the song, he switched the emphasis between the chorus and the verses. You know,
yep,
uh, so he didn't just copy the form either. He
true.
changed it up completely.
Mhm.
And so, but yeah,
Yeah,
this
the
goes.
chorus on the face value kind of drops down. It's got kind of the
Sure.
finger snap,
Yeah,
cool
yeah,
part
yeah.
Yeah.
to it. And
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is part of the trifecta of Behind the Lines. I mean, that fits in very well with the Paper Late and No Reply at All. But the Genesis Behind the Lines um, is just if that doesn't match up to some of the classical Genesis, I don't know what does. I think a lot of the people that poo-poo Abacab never really listen to it. I think they hear just the sound, and because it doesn't have that classic Genesis early Henschel mix,
Yeah.
they just automatically just you know. And as a curmudgeon, I understand
Mhm.
that mindset. But yeah, I think anyone that any Genesis fan that doesn't like Abacab, I think either they're just refusing to give it a chance, or
Yeah.
you know
you
they just don't
realize
want.
to some people that this means war.
Oh sure, one particular person over on Twitter, yeah,
Yep.
I like to push his buttons on this one, yeah.
No, it's a good choice.
So
It's a good
yeah,
choice.
that's my baker's dozen.
My baker's dozen is going to end with carpet crawlers.
Yeah,
or
Lamb
carpet crawlers.
Crullers,
Crawlers, yeah.
one or the other. Carpet Crawlers from Lamb Down on Broadway. It, surprisingly, this was released as a single twice and it bombed both times.
Mm.
I just, the intro with this sort of, as I call them, shimmering keyboards, as I call it, as I hear it. And, you know, Gabriel's vocals are very low, very sort of measured and very deliberate. And as the track goes along with the drums, the drum pattern, it sort of picks up with the keyboards and guitars, but his vocals are produced or measured all the way through. He doesn't sort of speed ahead of the melody line of the on the track. And it's just beautifully delivered. And um just when you think it's going to explode into this big, you know, production number, it teases you, but then it kind of pulls back into itself, and then it just sort of peters out slowly. To me, that's the mark of embellishing without over embellishing, if that makes any sense in terms of production, in terms of arrangement. And I think that it's always been a concert favorite. When you hear the opening chords on the keyboards, you know what's going to happen. People lose their fucking mind. I'm sorry, it's true. They go ballistic with this track when they hear it.
Yeah.
And but they wait. They let Phil or they let Peter
Yeah.
sing it and they go along with it. And the choruses are anthemic and infectious. People start singing it before they get to the chorus.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And you almost have to keep up with the audience. You know what I mean? Oh, okay, they've skipped over this verse. Let's go into the chorus already, kind of a thing, right? But from a production standpoint, as a track, I think it is a beautiful song. I think it's a very measured song and it doesn't overplay itself, right? And so that's how I'm finishing off my Baker's Dozen with Carpet Crawlers
Sweet.
from Lamb Was Down on Broadway in 1974.
Outstanding choice, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's another one that Tony was okay playing live from the Lamb. So clearly that met that criteria.
Yes, he said that out of the entire album, there were really only two tracks that he could see playing as a constant in the set list, and that was In the Cage as a part of a medley and Carpet Crawlers, because you could play them out of context with what was going on with the rest of the album. Although he did say he does say in the cage, outside the cage, I see my brother John. So that kind of ruins it there. But he says those two songs were so popular that we couldn't take them out of the set list.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the title song too.
And the town song, sorry, yeah,
That got a lot of airplay
the
or a
three
lot of a
tracks,
lot of live time. Yeah.
yeah, three tracks. But yeah, no, trying to keep this down to 13 was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard. I tried to stay away from the hits, but the hits are hits, right? If you like it, you like it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Our Baker's Dozen of Genesis, 13 tracks each. Please put in the comments down there, down below, what your favorite Baker's Dozen is from Genesis. Could be even more than that. Hits or deep cuts, it doesn't matter. We just want to get everyone's opinion. And I'm sure because of some of our choices, Domino, I'm gonna get flack for what I chose. But you know what? It's all
Fair enough.
opinion, right? So please,
Mhm.
again, let us know what your favorite tracks are in the
And let
Baker's
us know your favorite donut as well.
and your favorite donut. Let's make this fun. Let us know your favorite donut, okay? And how often you eat it. How's that? So, anyways, well, I want to thank Ken and Jim for joining me for episode 2 of our Genesis, I guess you call it mini series, Genesis Triple Play. And please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content I've got coming up. We are going to continue with the Genesis Triple Play with the third episode, the third installment, ranking the albums version 2.0. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to include From Genesis to Revelation and Calling All Stations. So that's
Yeah.
coming up very soon. And Bill Schuster is going to be joining us for that episode. It's going to be a long one. So when you do watch that, get some food, get a drink, grab a smoke, whatever you do, sit back and enjoy. Okay? So for Ken and Jim, I'm Armando signing off. Again, look after yourselves, pleasing one another, and we'll see you soon with Genesis Triple Play Episode 3, Ranking the Albums, version 2.0. Bye for now.